All right, Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. So, um, you need to see this as the Messiah in your mind, because a lot of you people still see that so-called white boy, Cesare Borgia, which goes back to Serapis Christos in your mind. So this is one of the phases of being reborn in the spirit. You have to see the correct imagery in your mind. And some of you people, that's why I don't think you've been taught this. So you have to understand how important this is, because if you still seeing that white boy in your mind, you haven't been reborn. You still in the world. You think you're in the truth, but you're in the world. The spirit is bringing that to my attention, to bring to your attention. This is who you need to see in your mind. Now, we're not saying this is exactly how the Messiah looks, but this is consistent with what the scripture have said, him being a so-called black man. Yeah, right. So this needs to be in your mind now when you read the scriptures. When you have scriptures, when the Messiah comes up, you need to see this in your mind, a so-called black man. If not, you're not in the truth and you haven't been reborn. I just want to bring that to your attention. So let's get into this lesson. So much going on in this crazy world. The spirit moved me to go into the apocrypha. Why was it removed? Right? Because it was when I first started waking up, one of the I think it was Elder Malcolm, if I'm not mistaken, it could have been another brother, but they were saying that they had actually showed a 1611 King James Version Bible, and they were showing it, with the apocrypha in it. And I was like, man, it dawned to me that if that was originally a part of the Bible, why did they take it out? So, started to grow my understanding, but I see why they did this. They took it out so they can leave you clueless of what's going on, like the Jew or Greek thing. If you knew that in the Maccabees that Antiochus, if I'm not mistaken, put the decree out that we couldn't call ourselves Israelites anymore, and we had to call ourselves Greeks. That'll give you a way vast understanding about the so-called New Testament. So the New Testament was written to the Israelites that was dispersed, and to the Israelites that knew they was Israelites. So it was a continuation going into all the other prophecies that would play themselves out, but it's only dealing with the Israelites. But if you don't have the apocrypha, you got a big portion, a chunk of understanding out of the Bible missing, and you would not have the full understanding. That means the mysteries would be, you'd be clueless, oblivious to what's going on. It says right here, the apocrypha, and you have something called the Bible destruction group, Salakia, around the 1800s, that actually took this out. But let's go back a little bit farther. It says right here, the apocrypha. Why is this so important? All right, it says the apocrypha were not removed from the Bible in a single event, but rather their inclusion in the Protestant Bibles became increasingly rare starting in the 16th century. This is culminating in their exclusion from the King James Version in 1885. Well, there you go. Check this out. So I'm going to give you the history so you can understand a very important thing, that the Apocrypha is a part of the Bible, and it is a part of the original canon, because these so-called Bible scholars that says they took it out because it's not canonical, but that's a lie. The Apocrypha has a lot of condemning information in it, and they did this on purpose. And who was the they? The Jewish people, the Edomites, Amalek. That's who did it. It says the Apocrypha, which includes books like First and Second Maccabees, Tobit, Judith, and other historically included in the both Catholic and Protestant Bibles, including the original King James Bible of 1611. So that's the one I'm looking at right now that has the Apocrypha in it. But check this out. It says Protestant Reformation. It says during the Protestant Reformation, so you had some kind of Protestant split that, they split up from the Roman Catholic Church. And you had Jakes that was involved in this too. Right then, the Edomites, when they took over, they fully pushed this version of Christianity and made it out of what you have today when they got possession of it. It says figures like Martin Luther and the Puritans began to question the authority of the Apocrypha, Edomites, emphasizing the concept of sola scripture or with scripture alone, right? So right here, it says Westminster Confession of Faith. The Westminster Confession of Faith, composed during the British Civil Wars, 1642 to 1651, it says formally excluded the apocrypha from the canon, stating that they were not part of a canon of scripture and therefore had no authority in the church of God. These fucking Edomites. Right here. Check this out. It says the British and Foreign Bible Society, which was responsible for printing and distributing Bibles, initially included Apocrypha in its publications, but later removed it in 1804, citing the cost of printing the extra material. That's fucking a lie. They wanted to cause this deception. It says the Apocrypha was officially removed from the King James Bible in 1885, primarily due to economic reasons. That's not true. They did it so they can cause this confusion and be able to foster these lies. So let's go here. So I'm going to show you something in scripture that most people probably don't even know is here. Let's go here. Let's go to John. Let's start at 22. That's the point. John 10 and 22. Let me let this load up. It says John 10 and 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication. So some people know as Hanukkah, right? So Yahushua was doing a custom from the Maccabean period, which was found in the Apocrypha. I'm going to show you. So, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. Right here, 23, to show you that the Messiah was doing it. It says, and Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. So where did this come from? Let me show you. Let me give you education. Scripture, John 10 and 22. And you go to Feast of Dedication, as you know, as Hanukkah. That's one of the high holy days. Check this out. It's important to know this. It says dedication, consecration. It says right here at the very top. It says in particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days, beginning in the 25th of Cheslev. That's some shit they created, right? It says instituted by Julius Maccabees, 164 BC. It says in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes. Well, there you go. So going back here, John 10 and 22, Yahushua was keeping, why is this important? Yahushua was keeping the feast of dedication, which goes back into the Apocrypha, which, what is that found at? Let me show you. What is this event found at? All right, let's get this. It says at the top, yes, Yahushua is depicted in the New Testament attending the Feast of Dedication, also known as Hanukkah, which is mentioned in John 10 and 22, which I just came from. It says this verse at that time, the Feast of Dedication took place in Jerusalem. It was winter and Yahushua was walking in the temple in Solomon's colonnade, something like that. It says right here at the top, Feast of Dedication, also known as Hanukkah, which at Hanukkah is new speak. That's not how you pronunciate it, but we'll do that another day. The Feast of Dedication, also known as Hanukkah, commemorates the rededication of Jerusalem temple by the Maccabees in the 2nd century BC, after it was desecrated by the Greeks. Right here. The fact that Yahushua was present in Jerusalem in the temple during the Feast of Dedication suggests that he participated in, this ain't no Jewish holiday. This is an Hebrew Israelite custom. And where does this custom come from? The Apocrypha. So the Apocrypha is was a part of the original 1611 Bible, but they took it out. Let's go here. So these devils did this to strip, to give you, it's like you got a book that they took half of the book out, right? Let me see something. Give me 1 second. Slakia. And what's the count is at? It's found in the apocrypha, the book of Maccabees. So let's go get it. First Maccabees 4:54, and it goes to show you that the Maccabees, the apocrypha is inspired canon. They lied to you. It says, look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was dedicated with songs, with citerns and harps and cymbals. Let's keep going. The next verse. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh, who had given them good success. It says, First Maccabees 4:56. It says, and so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. There you go, the Feast of Dedication. That's known as the Feast of Dedication today. Right? So this comes from the Apocrypha. And go to show you how delusional you devils is. Yahweh Shah kept the Feast of Dedication. Where did this custom come from? The Apocrypha, the book of the Maccabees. So the book of the Maccabees is inspired canon. All of it is the Apocrypha. So this is a cut to you doctrine, you people doctrine that say the Apocrypha is not inspired canon. Where did they get this from? From the Apocrypha, from the book of Maccabees. I'm reading to you right now. So you Jakes, that's outside of the truth. You don't know nothing. That's the problem. Let's go here. Let's go. Think of something else I want to go to. Let me see. Matter of fact, let me show you one more thing. Let's go back here. This is another cut to that the Messiah and the Most High is the same person. Let's keep reading on that. So, Salakia. Go to 10 and 24. 1 second. 1 second, Salakia. All right, so this is John 10 and 24. It says, then came the so-called Jews, which would be the Israelites, around about him, and said unto him, how long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be Hamashiach, tell us plainly. Let's go to 25. And Yahweh shall answer them, I told you, and ye believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. So the Messiah and the Father is not the same person. They're not the same entity. This proves that there's many other precepts. I got like 20 precepts I can go through to show you this. Matter of fact, let me get one more. 1 second. Yeah. So John, that's 14 and 28. So at the top, it says the phrase, my Father is greater than I. You Christians are stupid. This is a statement from Yahweh Shah, John 14 and 28. And let me say this too. His name was not John, right? This is a translation. That's what's stumbling block on you people. Yeah, the Hebrew name. Acknowledging the Father's supreme authority and position. So that's impossible that they are co-equal, because you Christians been taught that Trinity doctrine. It says John 14, 28, acknowledging the Father's supreme authority and position, right? Let's go here. John 14, 28. It says in John 14 and 28, Yahweh Shah says, if you love me, you would rejoice that I am going to the Father, for the Father is greater than I. Reading and comprehension is art. All right, hopefully this lesson has been edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Barkat, Kodash, Shalom.